Since man first appeared on the face of the earth, there has always been a rich variety of bird species, and this is still true today, with the continuous evolution of new forms. Birds occupy a large variety of ecological niches and are to be found in practically any habitat on our planet. The greatest diversity of existing species of birds is to be found in South America, around 2,900. That's 40% of the total number, which is why it has been called the bird continent. Venezuela is one of the countries with the largest number of species, around 1,400. This wealth of birds exists thanks to the large number of ecosystems to be found the length and breadth of the country. The Orinoco floodable plains, several different mountain chains, the mysterious Orinoco-Amazon region, more than 1,600 miles of shoreline, and numerous islands and archipelagos. In each of these regions, the most bizarre species are to be found that are exceptional examples of birds' evolutionary adaptation to the environment, in particular regarding their feeding and reproductive habits, the two poles around which all animal life revolves. Birds possess a series of properties that distinguish them from other vertebrates, the most obvious being that their bodies are covered with feathers. Another notable difference is that their bones are hollow and filled with air, giving them a skeleton that is both compact and extremely light, ideal for flying. An interesting example of this is the magnificent frigate bird, whose plumage weighs more than its skeleton. Birds vary remarkably in size. Here we have tiny hummingbirds that are just a few centimeters long, and the tall jabiru, which measures 5 feet, one of Venezuela's largest birds. Birds have successfully adapted to environments other than the air. We have many examples of specialization in locomotion over land and in the water. The double-striped thick-knee is a bird of medium size that would rather walk than fly, and other species are, quite simply, good walkers. The jacana, with its long legs and claws, can walk on floating vegetation. And the cormorant is an expert diver that catches fish in its strong beak. Other interesting adaptations are found among the climbing birds, such as the woodpeckers, which use their tail for support as they climb and perch on vertical tree trunks. Food is another major aspect in the biology of any organism. Most adaptations that have occurred in birds to enable them to obtain food can be seen in the beak, and to a lesser extent in the legs, since the wings are used exclusively for flying and are incapable of catching or manipulating prey of any kind. Birds feed on a variety of plant and animal species. Some are frugivorous, eating mostly fruits throughout their lives. In general, these birds have a relatively broad, short beak. Among the typical fruit eaters, we find the blue jays, the blue-gray tanager, for example. Then we have its close relative, the glaucous tanager. The blue-capped tanager is, without a doubt, a beautiful blue jay, seldom seen in gardens since the spread of built-up areas has sent it to higher altitudes. The white-lined tanager is almost always found with them. This bird takes its name from the male, since the female is totally brown. Little seen, except at certain times of the year, is the hepatic tanager, which also ventures into gardens and plantations in search of fruit. The female is an olive-green color. It is quite common to see the arrogant hooded head of the black-faced tanager among the fruit-eating birds. Although they belong to the seed-eating family, some seed-eaters, such as the grayfish saltator, also frequent the plantations in search of fruit. So does the streaked saltator. The ochre-breasted brushfinch is also about the same business. Here we have three beautiful species from the tanager genus. A burnished buff tanager with a mask over its eyes, a speckled tanager in mottled greens and yellows, a male black-headed tanager, which can be distinguished from the female by its black head and lighter colors. The Euphonia genus, birds with vibrant coloring, also belong to the fruit-eating family. Here we have a male blue-hooded Euphonia, who is more bright and colorful than the female. And in low-lying areas we find the thick-billed Euphonia, a youngster in this case. A swallow tanager, a migrant from the Guyanan highlands. Some birds from other families also eat fruit at certain times of the year, or they combine fruit with other types of food, even those that are basically insect eaters. The red-crowned woodpecker would sometimes rather eat soft, aromatic fruits than undertake the laborious task of prying larvae and insects out of hard trunks, particularly the young birds with little experience. This is also true of the great kiskadee when it is young, although adults have been seen doing the same. See how awkwardly they eat the food. The brilliantly colored green jay does the same. The tropical mockingbird. The orange-billed nightingale thrush. The pale-breasted thrush. The yellow-legged thrush. And the bare-eyed thrush. Parrots and macaws are specialists in eating fruit and large seeds, which they crush in their powerful beaks. The toucan, on the other hand, with a very large but not very hard beak, can only eat berries and soft or very ripe fruit. Among the fruit eaters, we also find the noisy chachalaca and its near relation, the band-tailed guan. The crested bobwhite, a great walker, also eats fruit and the remains of plants. The curassow does the same, and it also eats insects. Another group that mixes fruit with insects and seeds is the Ecteridae family, which includes the shiny cowbird, the noisy yellow-rumped cassicue, the troupial, Venezuela's national bird, the yellow oriole, the oriole blackbird, the red-breasted blackbird. At the beginning of the rainy season, the forests and savannas provide a large number of plant species, giving us an opportunity to see the seed eaters in action. These birds are equipped with a short, strong beak, generally conical in shape, except for the pigeons, which enables them to crack open the hardest seeds. All seed eaters have a crop where they store the seeds before actually passing them through to their stomach or gizzard. Typical seed eaters belong to the Fringillidae family. There are a few herbivores or leaf-eating species in Venezuela. The main one is the hoatzin, with its prehistoric appearance. Pigeons and doves ingest small stones along with the seeds and plant waste to help them grind the food in their crop, since their stomach muscles are not strong enough for the task. Besides, these are the only birds that can drink without having to lift up their head to swallow. The splendid Guyanan cock of the rock, a grain eater and one of the most beautiful American birds. There are several groups of birds that exploit the nectar from flowers, a rich source of energy. All these species, as we shall see, have a long tubular or brush-shaped tongue that is ideal for taking the nectar. It is as common to see the banana quit among the flowers drinking in their nectar as it is to find them on fruit. The rusty flower piercer is an expert that feeds exclusively on flowers. See its hooked beak that enables it to pierce the base of the flower and then introduce its tongue. The purple honey creeper is another bird that only sucks the nectar from flowers. Hummingbirds are another story. They belong only to the American continent. In Venezuela, we have some 100 species of these tiny but bright, colorful birds that can beat their wings at a speed of more than 60 times a second, accelerate and move in reverse as they do their daily round of the flowers from which they obtain their food. Some groups of birds have specialized in trapping insects and small invertebrates, effectively controlling their numbers and relieving man of the consequences of many harmful species. Insect-eating birds are the most numerous, and for this reason, they have undergone the largest number of adaptations, both morphological and behavioral. Their common characteristic is a somewhat long, thin beak, which ends in a hook in some groups, such as the great kiskadee. The rust-margined flycatcher is a near relative of the great kiskadee, with very similar coloring, but smaller in size. So is the lesser kiskadee. As for the cattle tyrant, we can clearly see where it gets its name. The mountain elenia, the fork-tailed flycatcher, the brilliant vermilion flycatcher, the white-headed marsh tyrant, the pied water tyrant, swallows specialize in catching insects in flight. The blue and white martin, the white-winged swallow, the brown-chested martin. Another remarkable insect eater worthy of mention is the common wren, here in a nest built inside a piece of iron pipe. The plain-fronted thornbird is a remarkable nest builder, and much of its life is spent performing this task. A yellow-throated spinetail with its mate putting the finishing touches to their nest. The barred antshrike, about whom legends have been woven because of its sad song, is reduced to feeding off plums at the end of a hard summer when insects are hard to come by. The rufous-tailed jacamar, while similar in appearance to the hummingbirds, is 25 centimeters long and is more closely related to the toucans and woodpeckers. It follows the insects with its head, searching for its prey before pouncing. The blue-crowned motmot is an inhabitant of Venezuela's Guyana region. The paraquay and the patu, with their large open mouths, consume enormous amounts of insects and forage at night. See how this large patu is camouflaged during the day by looking like a tree branch. Its mouth is much larger than its small beak. A common paraquay in a typical pose of nighttime rest, dazzled by the light. Carnivorous birds are a varied and successful group that have always attracted man's attention because of their strength and skill. A characteristic of all these birds is a strong beak that ends in a hook with which they can cut and slash their prey. They also have powerful spurs and well-developed claws. The main carnivorous birds belong to two biological groups. The first are the falconiforms, a group of birds that are diurnal for the most part. And the second are the strigiforms, an order that comprises the owls which, as is well known, are nocturnal. The smallest are the swift falcons, such as the American kestrel, measuring about 25 centimeters, a fast flyer that achieves its speed by rapidly flapping its narrow, pointed, angle-shaped wings. They rarely hover like this aplomato falcon, which measures about 40 centimeters. They live in forests and open fields where they hunt other birds, diving down on them in full flight, or small animals. This bat falcon specializes in birds and bats. Among the largest hunters are the hawks that usually hover to catch their prey. The roadside hawk. Here we have a young gray hawk. The long-legged crane hawk is looking for amphibians and reptiles in the branches of the trees. The white-tailed hawk is drawn to wherever there is a grassland fire, as it traps the animals as they flee to safety. The savanna hawk perches on low trees or fence posts to spot its prey, lizards, frogs, and rodents. The black-collared hawk, also known locally as the fisher hawk, feeds mainly on fish, crabs, and snails. The Everglade kite has a hooked beak for removing the snails from their shells. Among the most powerful of these birds, and at the top of the food chain, we have the eagles, like this black-chested buzzard eagle. The majestic great black hawk. The harpy eagle, the most impressive and powerful bird of prey on Earth. While very different in appearance from the regular falcons, the caracaras belong to the same group. They can be distinguished by their brightly colored bare heads and large amount of black in the rest of their plumage. Rather than pursuing their prey in swift flight, the caracaras are, for the most part, land birds. They feed on live prey and carrion, as well as the ticks they find on the backs of savanna mammals. Carrion birds are a small but extremely important group, given their role in the ecosystem. They have a bald head, weak legs, and a beak that is suited to shredding decomposing flesh. They have a highly developed sense of smell, which enables them to detect carrion hidden in the forest. With the exception of the burrowing owl, so named because of its use of burrows in the savanna, and which can often be seen by day, owls are nocturnal hunters, with large eyes set in the front of their heads and an extraordinary ability for catching their prey in the dark. Birds play an important role in maintaining the balance of nature, besides providing us with colorful and joyous displays. A great deal remains to be learned about these creatures, which is why a stop must be put to the increasing extinction of bird species at all costs.